Hello and welcome to the Susie Mates Craft channel, a channel that will take you through a variety of crafts, mainly at basic level. Today's video is all about cable knitting, and it in particular is about the knitting term C4F, cable for front, and that is what I'm going to be showing you today. Now, I have just started by working 2 rows. I've got 14 stitches on my needle to demonstrate the C4F or cable for front for you. And the first 5 stitches I purled, then I knit 4 stitches, which is going to be where the cable will be worked, and then I purl 5 stitches. Now, it is quite normal to have purl stitches either side of a cable. I think one of the reasons for this is you'll see as it gets bigger, the purl side tends to sit indented, and the knit stitches tend to look raised on the top of your knitting, so it makes the cable stitches stand out more. So your pattern will dictate how many purl stitches are either side of your cable work, but for this demonstration I have done 5 purl stitches, knit 4 stitches, 5 purl stitches on the first row, and on the reverse of the row, normally in most cable knitting, not always, there's always the exception to the rule, but in most cable knitting you knit the knit stitches on the reverse, all the stitches that look like the knit stitches on the reverse, and you purl the purl stitches. So I knitted 5 stitches, purled 4 stitches, knitted 5 stitches, and here I am back to the beginning again. And I'm going to show you now a cable row. Now you will need a cable needle as well as a pair of knitting needles and some yarn. And a cable needle, the size of it, I do have just a few cable needles. I might add 1 or 2. Now the reason I have so many is they're often given as free gifts in knitting magazines here in the UK. So I've collected a few over the years, and B, you do actually need different thickness size cable needles depending on the thickness of the needles and yarn that you're working with. Now I'm working with chunky yarn on size 6mm knitting needles, so my cable needle also needs to be a chunky size, and even though they don't actually number them in sizes, just go by the look, and this is fine for the size 6 needles I'm using and the chunky yarn. Now, one thing I should point out, that I believe you can still get them like this, but traditionally cable needles looked like this, which was just one small straight needle, a little bit like a DPN. And although worked perfectly well for years, sometimes it could be a bit tricky if especially you weren't used to doing cable knitting. Occasionally you might lose a stitch or 2 along the way, so they bought them out with these little indentations in the middle, which meant your stitches that you needed to hold front or back while you were cabling were far less likely to fall off your cable needle. So a little short history of the cable needle there for you. So here we are. I'm going to show you the cable C4F stitch on this row. So I'm going to start by purling 5. 1. Oh, excuse me. I did pick up some stitches earlier. Some of my stitches are around the wrong way. 3. Let's turn that around. 4. 5. I'm just going to put my stitches around the right way. I picked up some stitches earlier as I ripped back a piece of work in order to show you this. But with picking up, as you probably already know, they're sometimes they're around the wrong way, so I've just moved them around the right way. Right, so I have purled 5 stitches, and now I'm going to show you the C4F or cable for front stitch. So you get your cable needle and you take off the first 2 stitches on your left hand needle, Just push them into the little dent and then just let them hang there. And you ignore it just for a moment. And then you knit 2 stitches in the normal way. Now you can let go of your left hand needle if you're afraid your stitches might fall off. Then you could put a little needle stopper on the end, or if you have another way of doing it. But mine stitches tend to be slightly on the firmer side, so that I know that left needle is not going anywhere. So I pick up my cable needle with my 2 stitches that I moved earlier, and I just knit them in the normal way. Put your cable needle down, as you won't need it again for a few rows. And then you purl 5 stitches to finish off this row. 4, 5. Now I'll do a couple more rows and then I'll show you once more. 1, 2. Don't forget, knit the knit stitches when you turn it over and purl the purl stitches, unless your pattern states otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4 purl stitches in the middle there, which was my cable on the previous round, and then finish by 5 knit stitches. 4, 5. Now, it might not be that evident at this stage, but I will show you what it looks like. So there you have your C4F, so called, or cable 4 front, because you're working on 4 stitches, you're splitting it in 2, so you hold 2 stitches on the front of your work while you knit the 2 stitches from your left hand needle in the normal way. Then you pick up your cable needle with the 2 stitches on and knit those stitches. So instead of your knitting sitting side by side like so, you've in effect done this with your stitches. So I'm just going to do another couple of ordinary rows. 1, 2, so I'm purling 5, 3, 4, 5, knit 4. You don't cable every row in a cable pattern. Normally you have a minimum of at least 4 rows in between each crossover of your cable pattern. And then I've purled 5. You can always skip this video to the next cable stitch if this is a little bit like watching paint dry. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, purl 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we end with a purl 5 on this row. 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to show you the cable, the cross 4F again too. So I've started by a purl 5. Right, you pick up your cable needle. You can see the 4 stitches sitting in the centre there with the crossover that we did earlier, and we've done a few more rows now, so I want to cross another 4. I want to cross 4 again, so I slip the first 2 stitches on the left hand needle onto my cable needle, let them fall into the dent and just hang down the front there. Then I knit the next 2 stitches from my left hand needle in the normal way. Then I let go of my left hand needle, pick up the cable needle and knit those 2 stitches from there. Be careful not to twist your cable needle around, as this could make the cable pattern look a bit skew-iff. We finish by a purl 5, turn over, and knit your knit stitches. Purl your purl stitches. And you can see on the back of your work actually where you have done the crossover as well, because you get these little indentations where you've forced the stitches around into a different pattern on the front. So there, can you see we're getting this nice little cable pattern forming now. So you can see we've crossed it over once, twice. Now you would probably do a couple more rows, 3 or 4 rows in between each twist over. Could not, I think the normal amount is actually 6 rows, 5 or 6 rows in between each cable. So you keep going. I would then do about another 4 rows, and then I would do another cable, and so on, all the way for as long as the jumper or cushion or blanket or scarf or hat or whatever it is I happen to be knitting. So can you see now how the purl stitches either side is more evident that that tends to be sort of indented flat piece of knitting, and the knit stitches, and particularly where you are twisting them to form the cable stitch, is nice and raised, so it actually makes your pattern stand out more. Well, that's it. That's how you C4F, or cable for front. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, please consider subscribing, and thank you very much for stopping by. It's been great fun. Bye for now.